Amanda Phillips stood on the observation deck of the starship and watched the purple planet slowly rotate beneath her. The planet was called Zephyr, and it was the most beautiful thing she had ever seen. Its surface shimmered with colors that shifted between deep violet and bright silver as it turned through space. She had been staring at it for 3 hours without moving. Her second officer, Marcus, kept asking if she wanted something to drink, but Amanda barely heard him. Her mind was focused on what was about to happen. In just a few hours, the human military forces would begin their assault on the Zephyrian settlements. This was the moment that Amanda had trained for her entire adult life. She was a soldier and she had a duty to perform. But as she looked at that beautiful purple world, she felt something strange pulling at her heart. She felt doubt. She felt fear. She felt something that she could not quite name, but it made her want to turn the ship around and go back home. The war between humans and Zephyrians had started 5 years ago when the aliens attacked a human mining colony on the planet called Kepler. Nobody knew why they attacked or what they wanted. The humans fought back and the Zephyrians retreated into space. After that first battle, more attacks came. The Zephyrians seemed to be testing human defenses, looking for weak points in the human military. Scientists studied the alien technology and engineers worked to build better weapons. Soldiers trained day and night to prepare for an invasion that everyone knew was coming. Amanda had lost friends in those first attacks. She had lost people she cared about. She had seen the bodies of colonists who had been killed by alien weapons. All of that pain and anger had pushed her forward. All of that loss had made her believe that humans needed to strike first and strike hard. The military leaders decided that the only way to end the war was to go to Zephyr and destroy the aliens on their own world. Amanda was chosen to lead the assault force because she was skilled and brave, and because she wanted this mission more than anything. But now that she was here, now that the beautiful purple world was so close that she could see the swirling storms in its atmosphere, doubt crept into her mind like cold fingers. Marcus approached her again, and this time he placed a hand on her shoulder. He asked if she was okay. He told her that everyone was ready. He told her that the soldiers were waiting for her orders. Amanda turned away from the window and looked at her second officer. Marcus was a good man. He had fought beside her in 3 different battles and had always proven himself to be loyal and true. She could trust him completely. She told him that she was fine. She told him that she was just thinking about the mission. She told him that she wanted to make sure that everything went according to plan. Marcus nodded and said that the plan was solid. He said that their intelligence suggested that the Zephyrians had limited air defense capabilities in the northern region. He said that if they landed there and moved quickly toward the capital city, they could achieve their objective before the aliens could mount an organized defense. Amanda thanked him and told him to get the assault teams ready. She would be down in the landing bay in 10 minutes to address the troops before they deployed to the planet below. Amanda walked through the corridors of the starship and past dozens of soldiers preparing their weapons and equipment. These men and women looked at her with respect and hope. They believed in her. They believed that she would lead them to victory. They believed that under her command they would survive this mission and return home as heroes. Amanda wanted to believe the same thing, but she could not shake the feeling of doubt that had taken hold of her. She entered her private quarters and sat on her bed. She pulled out a small photograph from her pocket. It showed a young girl with red hair and bright blue eyes. The girl was smiling. It was a picture of Amanda's daughter, Sarah. Sarah was 8 years old and lived with Amanda's mother back on Earth. Amanda had not seen her in 2 years. She had been gone so long that when she left Earth, Sarah had been terrified of her. The little girl did not recognize the woman in uniform. She called out for her grandmother instead of for her mother. That moment had broken Amanda's heart more than anything else in her entire life. She had promised herself that when this war was over, when she had done her duty and served her country, she would go home and be a real mother to her daughter. But now Amanda was not sure if she would ever see Sarah again. War was unpredictable and dangerous. People died in war. Good people died. Brave people died. Amanda could die in the next few hours. She put the photograph back in her pocket and took a deep breath. She had to be strong. She had to focus on the mission. She had to stop thinking about her daughter and her home and all the things she wanted but might never have. She was a soldier, and soldiers had to accept the risks that came with their profession. Amanda stood up and walked to the mirror. She looked at her own reflection. She saw a woman of 40 years old with lines on her face from too many years of stress and worry. She saw a warrior. She saw someone who had spent her entire life learning how to fight and how to kill. But she also saw something else. She saw a mother. She saw a human being with hopes and dreams and a desire to live and to love. These two parts of her were in conflict with each other. The soldier wanted to descend to Zephyr and complete the mission. The mother wanted to turn the ship around and go home to her daughter. Amanda left her quarters and made her way to the landing bay. Hundreds of soldiers stood in perfect formation waiting for her. They were in their combat armor with their weapons ready. They looked like machines designed for war rather than human beings. But Amanda knew that beneath the armor and the weapons, each of these people was someone like her. Each of them had families back home. Each of them had people who loved them and people they loved. Each of them had dreams and hopes and fears. She climbed onto the platform and looked out at all those faces. Many of them were young. Some of them had never been in a real battle before. Many of them would probably not survive what was about to happen. Amanda opened her mouth to give her speech. She was supposed to inspire them. She was supposed to tell them about duty and honor and victory. She was supposed to make them feel brave and strong and ready to do terrible things in the name of their country. But instead she found herself saying something different. She told them that she knew they were scared. She told them that it was okay to be scared. She told them that fear was what made them human. She told them that whatever happened down there on that purple planet, she wanted them to remember that they were not just soldiers. They were people. They had value beyond their ability to fight and kill. And when this war was over, they should go home and hold the people they loved and tell them how much they mattered. The soldiers stood in silence after Amanda finished speaking. She could see tears on some of their faces. She could see uncertainty in their eyes. She wondered if she had made a mistake by being so honest with them. But then they started to cheer. They began to shout her name. They raised their weapons into the air. They were ready. They trusted her. And Amanda realized that she had given them something more valuable than the usual words about duty and honor. She had given them permission to remember that they were human. She had given them hope that maybe this war could mean something beyond death and destruction. As she watched the landing ships begin to launch toward the purple planet below, Amanda Phillips said a silent prayer for all of them. She prayed that they would survive. She prayed that they would come home. And she prayed that somehow, in some way that she could not yet imagine, this terrible war might end in something that resembled peace. The landing ships cut through the purple atmosphere of Zephyr, and the sky filled with the bright orange glow of friction and heat. Amanda sat in the lead transport with Marcus and 50 soldiers packed tightly around her. The ship shook and trembled as it descended through the upper layers of the planet's air. Emergency lights flickered red and yellow. Someone was praying quietly in the darkness. Someone else was checking their weapons for the 10th time. Amanda could feel the fear in that transport like a living thing. Fear had a smell. Fear had a texture. Fear was something that could be felt by anyone brave enough to acknowledge it. The transport landed hard on the rocky ground, and Amanda was thrown forward against her restraints. Dust and smoke surrounded the ship. The side door exploded outward in a cloud of debris. Sunlight poured in through the opening. The sun of Zephyr was larger than Earth's sun, and it cast long, strange shadows across the alien landscape. Amanda unlatched her restraints and moved toward the open door. This was the moment of truth. This was the moment when the assault would truly begin. As Amanda stepped out of the transport, the landscape of Zephyr revealed itself to her in all its alien glory. The ground was made of a reddish rock that looked smooth and polished in some places and rough and jagged in others. Strange plants grew from this rocky earth. They were not green like earth plants. They were colors that Amanda's mind could barely process. They were silver and blue and gold all at once. Their structures were angular and geometric. They looked almost like crystalline structures rather than living plants. In the distance, Amanda could see the Zephyrian city. It rose from the landscape like something from a dream. Its buildings were tall and curved and seemed to glow from within with that same purple light that had drawn Amanda's attention when she was still in orbit. The city was beautiful. It was so beautiful that it hurt to look at. But there was no time to appreciate beauty. The human assault force had come to destroy this place. They had come to end the threat that the Zephyrians posed to human civilization. The soldiers spread out across the landing zone. Military vehicles began to move into formation. Weapons were armed and aimed toward the distant city. Amanda could see through her enhanced binoculars that the Zephyrian defenders were taking positions on the outer walls of their city. They had prepared for this invasion. They were waiting for the humans to attack. Amanda raised her hand and gave the signal to advance. The army began to move forward across the alien landscape. As they moved, Amanda noticed something strange. There were no Zephyrians on the outer perimeter of their territory. There were no mines or traps. There was no ambush. The Zephyrians had simply withdrawn into their city and prepared to defend their homes. This was not the behavior of a species that wanted to conquer the galaxy. This was the behavior of a species that was defending itself. Amanda pushed the thought away. She could not allow such thoughts to influence her decisions. She had her orders. She had her duty. The human forces reached the outer walls of the Zephyrian city without encountering any resistance. This was strange. Marcus commented that it seemed too easy. Amanda agreed that something felt wrong. But then the first energy weapon fired from the top of the city wall. Blue light streaked across the sky and hit one of the human transport vehicles. The vehicle exploded in a shower of metal and fire. Soldiers screamed. Amanda's force returned fire immediately. Weapons roared and projectiles flew toward the city walls. The battle had begun. Explosions rocked the alien landscape. Buildings crumbled. The beautiful city that had looked like something from a dream became something from a nightmare. It became a place of fire and smoke and destruction. Amanda led her soldiers through the chaos and toward the main gate of the city. They moved quickly, driven by adrenaline and training and the raw power of collective will. The gate was massive, made from some kind of alien metal that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. One of the soldiers planted explosives on the gate. The explosion tore the massive structure apart. The soldiers poured through the opening into the streets of the Zephyrian city. Amanda moved with them, her weapon raised and ready, but she saw very few Zephyrians resisting them. Most of the alien defenders seemed to be withdrawing deeper into the city, rather than fighting to the death. Amanda found this odd. In her military training, she had been taught that when a species was fighting for its very survival, it would fight with everything it had. It would use every tactic and every weapon available. It would sacrifice everything to protect its world. But the Zephyrians were not doing this. They were retreating. They were retreating in an organized way that suggested they had a plan. Amanda ordered her forces to push deeper into the city to find out what that plan was. The city was even more beautiful on the inside than it was from the outside. The buildings had elaborate decorative elements that served no military purpose. They were purely artistic. Gardens filled with those strange geometric plants grew in the spaces between the buildings. Fountains flowed with crystal-clear water. Street sculptures showed the history of the Zephyrian civilization. This was a city that had been built by people who loved beauty and art and culture. This was not the city of a species that wanted to conquer and destroy. Amanda began to realize that she did not understand why this war had started in the first place. Nobody had ever really explained it. The military leaders had simply said that the Zephyrians were a threat and that they had to be destroyed. But now Amanda was beginning to question that assumption. She was beginning to wonder if perhaps the humans had made a terrible mistake in assuming that the aliens were their enemies. A young Zephyrian emerged from one of the buildings ahead of them. She was not carrying a weapon. She was not making any aggressive moves. She simply stood in the middle of the street and waited for the humans to reach her. Amanda signaled her soldiers to hold their fire. She approached the alien creature with caution. The Zephyrian was taller than Amanda by almost a full head. Her skin was a pale blue color that seemed to shimmer in the strange light of Zephyr's sun. Her eyes were large and luminous. She opened her mouth and began to make sounds that were unlike any language Amanda had ever heard. The sounds were musical and complex and somehow beautiful. But Amanda had no way to understand what the Zephyrian was saying. Then Marcus approached with a translation device. He held it up and activated it. The device processed the alien sounds and converted them into human language. The Zephyrian was saying only one thing, repeated over and over again. She was saying that humans needed to come with her. She was saying that the Queen wanted to speak with them. She was saying that the Queen had something important to tell them about why this war had begun and why it did not have to continue. Amanda looked at this beautiful alien creature standing alone in the ruins of her own city, and Amanda made a decision that would change everything. She told her soldiers to lower their weapons. She told them to stand down. She told them that they would follow the Zephyrian to meet this queen. The Zephyrian girl led Amanda and a small group of soldiers through the damaged streets of the city toward the heart of the civilization. As they walked, Amanda could see the destruction that had already been caused by the human assault. Buildings that had been magnificent just hours ago were now rubble and ash. The beautiful gardens and sculptures had been buried under debris. The citizens of Zephyr huddled in shelters and watched the humans pass with a mixture of fear and resignation. Amanda felt something in her chest tighten. These were not the eyes of an invading army. These were the eyes of people who were afraid for their lives and the lives of their children. These were the eyes of people who knew that their world was ending. The young Zephyrian who was leading them continued to move forward without speaking. Her back was straight and her head was held high. She moved with a purpose that suggested she had been assigned this task by someone very important. Finally, they arrived at the palace. The palace of the Zephyrians was unlike anything Amanda had ever seen before. It was built into the side of a massive mountain, and it seemed to grow organically from the rock itself. The walls of the palace were not separate from the mountain. They were part of it. The entire structure seemed to pulse with an inner light that came from deep within the earth. As they approached the entrance, Amanda noticed that the palace was undamaged. No weapons had been fired at it. No bombs had been dropped on it. It stood completely untouched by the violence that had devastated the rest of the city. The young Zephyrian approached a massive door that seemed to be made from the same material as the palace walls. The door slid open silently at her approach. She gestured for Amanda and the others to enter. Amanda hesitated for just a moment. She knew that she might be walking into a trap. She knew that this could be a military ambush designed to capture or kill the human commanding officer. But something inside her told her that this was important. Something inside her told her that this moment might determine the fate of not just this war, but of both species. She took a deep breath and stepped through the doorway into the palace. The interior of the palace was illuminated by that same purple light that had drawn Amanda's attention from orbit. The light seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at the same time. It did not cast shadows. It did not create areas of darkness. It simply existed as a gentle glow that allowed Amanda to see everything clearly, but never seemed too bright or too harsh. The walls of the palace were smooth and polished and covered with intricate carvings that told the story of Zephyrian civilization. Amanda wanted to stop and examine these carvings, but the young Zephyrian continued to walk forward and Amanda followed. They passed through many corridors and through many chambers. Some of the chambers were empty, but some contained Zephyrians, who watched the humans pass but did not attempt to interfere. Finally, they arrived at what seemed to be the throne room. It was an enormous circular chamber with a ceiling that stretched impossibly high. The walls were made from that same crystalline material that seemed to form the entire palace. On a platform in the center of the chamber sat the queen. Queen Lyra was the most beautiful and terrifying thing Amanda had ever seen. She was humanoid but not human. Her form seemed to be made from light and substance combined in a way that defied logical explanation. Her skin shimmered with colors that shifted constantly from blue to silver to violet to gold. Her hair flowed around her like water even though there was no wind in the throne room. Her eyes were enormous and luminous and seemed to contain the light of stars. She wore a gown that appeared to be woven from starlight and shadow. When she looked at Amanda, Amanda felt as though the queen could see into her very soul. The queen stood up from her throne and walked down from the platform. She moved with grace and power. She moved like someone who was used to being obeyed and respected. She stopped directly in front of Amanda and placed one long, slender hand on Amanda's forehead. Immediately, images began to flood into Amanda's mind. She saw the history of the Zephyrians. She saw how their civilization had evolved over millions of years. She saw how they had achieved peace and harmony with their world. She saw how they had developed technology that allowed them to travel through the stars. But then Amanda saw something else. She saw why the war had started. She saw a Zephyrian exploration vessel discovering the human colony on Kepler. The Zephyrians had been peaceful and curious. They had wanted to make contact and establish communication. But there had been a misunderstanding. The humans had interpreted the arrival of the Zephyrian ship as an invasion. The humans had fired first. The Zephyrians had defended themselves. And in that moment of confusion and fear, the war had begun. Amanda saw how the queen had tried repeatedly to reach out to the humans and establish peace. She had sent messages through every communication channel. She had attempted to negotiate. But the humans had refused to listen. The humans had been too afraid. They had assumed that anything alien was a threat. They had responded with violence and aggression. They had decided that the only way to be safe was to destroy the Zephyrians completely. The Queen showed Amanda all of this and more. The Queen showed her the pain and sadness that the Zephyrians felt. The Queen showed her that she had loved her world and her people, and that she had done everything in her power to prevent this terrible conflict. When the visions finally ended, Amanda stumbled backward and would have fallen if Marcus had not caught her. Amanda's eyes were filled with tears. She looked at Queen Lyra, and for the first time she understood the true nature of what had happened. The war had not started because the Zephyrians wanted to conquer and destroy. The war had started because of fear and misunderstanding. The war had started because both species were afraid of each other. The Queen moved closer to Amanda and spoke. Her voice did not come from her mouth. Instead, it appeared directly in Amanda's mind, translated perfectly into human language. The Queen said that she had wanted to show Amanda the truth. She said that she believed Amanda was someone who could understand and who could help. She said that the Queen had sent a message asking for peace 3 months ago, but the humans had ignored it. She said that she understood why the humans had come to Zephyr to attack. She said that she did not blame them for being afraid. She said that she had decided not to fight back with full force because she did not want more death. She said that she hoped Amanda would be willing to work with her to end this war before more lives were lost on both sides. Amanda looked into the Queen's luminous eyes, and she felt something shift inside her. She felt her understanding of the universe change. She felt her certainty about who was right and who was wrong begin to crumble. She realized that in war, there were rarely any clear answers. There were rarely good guys and bad guys. There were just people trying to protect their own. There were just people trying to do what they thought was right. And sometimes those people ended up as enemies, even though they did not have to be. Amanda told the Queen that she would help. She told the Queen that she would use her position and her authority to try to stop the fighting. She told the Queen that she would attempt to convince the human military leaders to negotiate for peace. She did not know if she would be successful. She did not know if the humans would listen. But she knew that she had to try. She knew that after seeing what the Queen had shown her, she could not go back to believing that this war was justified. Amanda left the palace with a new understanding of the situation, but also with an enormous burden on her shoulders. She had to make a choice, and that choice would affect millions of people. She could report what she had learned to the military command and attempt to stop the invasion, but she also knew that many within the human military leadership would not believe her. They would think she had been compromised by the aliens. They would think she had been manipulated or brainwashed. They would remove her from command and continue with the assault on Zephyr. Alternatively, she could continue to appear as though the invasion was proceeding as planned, while secretly working with Queen Lyra to find a path to peace. But that would mean betraying the soldiers under her command and deceiving the military leaders who had placed their trust in her. It was an impossible situation. There were no good choices. There were only choices that were less terrible than others. Amanda returned to the human encampment and found that her soldiers had secured a large section of the city. They had set up defensive positions and were preparing for a counterattack that they assumed was coming from the remaining Zephyrian forces, but no counterattack came. The Zephyrians remained in their territory and made no aggressive moves toward the humans. This only reinforced Amanda's new understanding. If the Zephyrians had wanted to destroy the humans, they could have done so easily. They had superior technology. They had weapons that the humans could barely comprehend, but instead they had chosen to withdraw and to allow the humans to secure the city without much resistance. The Zephyrians did not want war. They wanted peace, and they had been trying to make that clear through their actions, even as the humans continued to attack them. Marcus found Amanda alone in her command tent, and he could immediately see that something had changed in her. He asked what had happened in the palace. He asked what the Queen had wanted. Amanda was quiet for a long moment before she decided to tell him the truth. She told him about the visions. She told him about the misunderstanding that had started the war. She told him about the Queen's genuine desire for peace. She expected Marcus to react with skepticism or anger. She expected him to think she was crazy. But instead, Marcus simply nodded. He told Amanda that he had been having doubts about this mission for months. He told her that he had never been comfortable with the idea of committing genocide against an entire species. He told her that he was relieved to know that there might be another way. He told Amanda that whatever she decided to do, he would support her completely. Amanda felt a wave of gratitude toward her friend. She told him that she needed his help to get a message to the military command. She wanted to request an immediate ceasefire so that negotiations could begin. The message was sent that evening. Amanda requested an urgent meeting with the military leadership through secure communication channels. She told them that she had discovered new information that was critical to the outcome of the war. She requested permission to brief them in person. There was a long delay before the response came back. The message stated that a command shuttle would arrive the next morning to transport Amanda to the fleet headquarters. Until then, she was ordered to maintain her current position and to continue operations as planned. Amanda understood what this meant. The military leadership was skeptical of her message. They were probably wondering if she had been compromised. They would want to interrogate her before deciding whether to trust her account of events. She had approximately 18 hours to prepare for that interrogation and to decide exactly how much of the truth she was willing to reveal. That night, Amanda could not sleep. She sat in her tent and thought about everything that had happened. She thought about the day the Zephyrians had first attacked the human colony on Kepler. She had read the reports from that day, but she had never questioned the narrative that had been presented to her. The reports had stated that the Zephyrians had attacked without provocation and without warning. The reports had stated that the attack was part of a larger plan to conquer human space, but now Amanda realized that those reports had been incomplete. They had been presented from a perspective of fear and aggression. Nobody had attempted to understand why the Zephyrians had acted as they did. Nobody had attempted to communicate with them or to find out what they wanted. Everyone had simply assumed the worst and had responded with overwhelming force. And in doing so, the humans had made an enemy out of a potential ally. Amanda also thought about Queen Lyra. She thought about the sadness in the Queen's luminous eyes. She thought about the grace and wisdom that the Queen had displayed. She thought about how the Queen had not fought back with the full force of her technology, even though she could have destroyed the human invasion force easily. Instead, the Queen had withdrawn and had tried to offer the humans a chance to understand. The Queen had shown Amanda visions of peace and harmony, and she had asked Amanda for help achieving that peace. Amanda knew that what she was about to do would be considered treason by many people. She knew that she might be court-martialed. She knew that she might spend the rest of her life in a military prison, but she also knew that she could not go back to killing Zephyrians now that she understood the truth. She could not go back to being a soldier in a war that should never have happened. At dawn, the command shuttle arrived and Amanda boarded it. She was accompanied by a military security detail, but nobody attempted to restrain her or remove her weapons. She was still being treated as a commanding officer rather than as a prisoner. That was encouraging. It suggested that the military leadership did not yet see her as a threat. As the shuttle climbed into orbit around Zephyr, Amanda could see the damage that the human assault had caused to the beautiful purple world below. Smoke rose from multiple locations. Buildings that had been works of art had been reduced to rubble. Entire sections of the city had been destroyed, and all of this destruction had happened because of fear and misunderstanding and the refusal to communicate. The command shuttle docked with the flagship of the human fleet. Amanda was escorted to a conference room where 5 senior military officers were waiting for her. These were the leaders of the invasion force and the people who held the power to decide the fate of the war. They looked at Amanda with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. The senior commander, General Patricia Wells, gestured for Amanda to sit down. She told Amanda that she had an hour to explain why she had requested this meeting. General Wells said that if Amanda's explanation was not convincing, she would be detained for further interrogation. She said that the invasion would continue as planned, and that Zephyr would be brought completely under human control within the next week. Amanda took a deep breath and began to tell them everything that she had learned. She told them about Queen Lyra and her desire for peace. She told them about the true origins of the war. She told them that the Zephyrians were not the threat that they had all believed them to be. She told them that there was a chance to end this war through negotiation, rather than through more violence and destruction. When she finished speaking, the room was completely silent. General Wells and the other officers stared at Amanda as though she was speaking a language that they could not understand. General Patricia Wells was the first to speak after Amanda finished her briefing. She said that Amanda's story was interesting, but that it was not sufficient to change the military strategy. She said that based on all available intelligence, the Zephyrians were still a threat and that the invasion would continue as planned. She said that if Amanda had been compromised by the aliens, it was understandable given the advanced technology that the Zephyrians possessed. She said that Amanda would be relieved of her command effective immediately and would be detained for psychological evaluation. She said that her second officer, Marcus, would take over command of the assault forces on the planet below. Amanda stood up from her chair. She told the general that what she was doing was a mistake. She told the general that by continuing this war, the humans would be committing an act of genocide against a peaceful species. She told the general that history would judge them harshly for this decision. General Wells responded coldly that history would judge them as victors, and that victors were always portrayed favorably in historical accounts. She ordered the security officers to take Amanda into custody. As the security officers approached Amanda, alarms suddenly began to sound throughout the command center. Red warning lights flashed on all the screens. One of the communications officers shouted that they were receiving an emergency transmission from the planet below. The message was from Marcus. He reported that Queen Lyra had arrived at the human encampment under a flag of truce. He reported that the Queen had arrived alone and unarmed. He reported that she was requesting permission to address the assembled commanders through secure communication. General Wells was furious at this development, but she could not refuse to listen to a communication from the alien Queen. She ordered the connection to be established. Seconds later, the voice of Queen Lyra filled the command center. Her voice did not come from the communication speakers. Instead, it appeared directly in the minds of everyone present, just as it had appeared in Amanda's mind. The Queen spoke, and her words were full of sadness and longing, and a desperate hope that peace might still be possible. The Queen said that she understood why the humans had attacked Zephyr. She said that she understood fear and the desire to protect one's own people. She said that she did not blame the humans for their aggression. She said that she was willing to overlook the destruction that had been caused to her world. She said that she was willing to put aside her own grief and pain, if it meant that the two species could find a way to coexist peacefully. She said that she had much knowledge to share with the humans. She said that Zephyrian technology in medicine and science could greatly benefit humanity. She said that humans had much to offer to the Zephyrians as well. She said that the two species could become allies and friends and that together they could accomplish things that neither species could achieve alone. She said that she was willing to sign any treaty that the humans requested. She said that she would agree to any terms that would ensure lasting peace. She asked only that the humans stop the violence and agree to negotiate. When the Queen finished speaking, there was silence in the command center. Many of the officers seemed to be genuinely considering what the Queen had said. General Wells, however, appeared to be unmoved. She said that the Queen's words were clearly a trick designed to lower human defenses. She said that the Zephyrians were masters of manipulation and that they could not be trusted. She ordered the assault forces to continue their attack. She ordered the bombardment of the palace. She said that if Queen Lyra had been foolish enough to leave her protected position, then the humans should take advantage of this opportunity to destroy the Zephyrian leadership. She said that with the Queen dead, the Zephyrians would quickly surrender. But before the general could issue the final order, one of her own officers refused to comply. It was a woman named Captain Helen Morrison. She said that she could not and would not be part of genocide. She said that she believed Amanda's account of events. She said that she was convinced that peace was possible and that the humans should pursue it. Captain Morrison drew her weapon and pointed it at General Wells. She told the general that she was under arrest for crimes against humanity. For a moment, everything seemed to hang in the balance. The other officers looked at each other uncertainly. Some of them moved toward Captain Morrison, but others hesitated. Amanda saw her opportunity and she moved toward the communications console. She sent a message to Marcus ordering all human forces to stand down and to enter into a ceasefire immediately. She told the troops that they were not to respond to the bombardment orders coming from command. She told them that their true commander was ordering them to preserve peace. Marcus received the message and he broadcast it to all units under his command. The human soldiers on the planet below received the order to stand down. They laid down their weapons. They withdrew from their positions. The attack stopped. The violence came to an end. General Wells was detained by Captain Morrison and the other officers who chose to support the peace initiative. Within days, a peace treaty was being negotiated between humans and Zephyrians. Amanda worked closely with Queen Lyra and with the Zephyrian scientists and military leaders. She worked with Captain Morrison and the officers who had chosen to support peace. They discussed trade agreements and technology sharing and cultural exchange. They discussed how the two species could work together to build a better future. The destruction that had been caused to Zephyr's cities was significant, but the Zephyrians possessed the knowledge to rebuild quickly. The humans offered to send reconstruction teams and supplies to help with the rebuilding process. It was a genuine partnership between two species that had almost destroyed each other but had chosen, at the last moment, to seek understanding instead. Queen Lyra invited Amanda to the newly rebuilt palace for a formal ceremony, honoring the end of the war. The palace had been repaired and enhanced with some human technology incorporated into its ancient Zephyrian design. When Amanda arrived, she was greeted by thousands of both humans and Zephyrians who had gathered to celebrate the peace. The Queen herself came to Amanda and took her hand. The Queen said that Amanda had saved her world. The Queen said that Amanda had shown more wisdom and courage in choosing peace than she could have shown in pursuing war. The Queen said that Amanda would always be honored among the Zephyrians. She said that she wanted Amanda to stay on Zephyr as the official human liaison to the Zephyrian government. Amanda asked what would happen on Earth. She asked if the human government would accept this peace treaty. Queen Lyra smiled and said that she had already sent messages to all the human worlds. She said that most of them had already agreed to end hostilities and to begin peace negotiations. She said that the fear that had driven both species to war was beginning to be replaced with hope and curiosity about each other. She said that this was the beginning of a new era. Amanda thought about her daughter Sarah back on Earth. She realized that she was about to miss even more time with her child. But she also realized that she was doing something that mattered. She was building a future where Sarah would grow up in a world at peace rather than at war. She was building a future where humans and Zephyrians worked together rather than fought each other. Amanda told Queen Lyra that she would stay on Zephyr and help establish the peace. She told the Queen that she would be honored to serve as a bridge between the two species. Queen Lyra embraced Amanda, and for a moment the two of them stood together under the strange light of Zephyr's sun. Amanda realized that the impossible had happened. Through understanding and compassion and the willingness to see another being as more than just an enemy, the two species had found peace. The war that should have destroyed both civilizations had instead become the moment that united them.